America taught you the Wild West was white, but nearly 1 in 4 cowboys were black. If black cowboys were everywhere, why don't we see them in the movies? A cowboy's life started before sunrise and ended long after dark. The open range was no playground. It was a 1,000-mile gauntlet, dust choking your lungs, boots caked with mud, hands blistered raw from rope and rain. Crews pushed herds north from Texas to Kansas, sometimes all the way to Colorado, each mile a gamble. No fences, no safety nets. If you lost the trail, you lost the herd. If you lost the herd, you lost your job, maybe your life. Lightning storms rolled in without warning. Thunder spooked cattle into stampedes that could crush a man flat. Nights froze your bones, days scorched your skin. One wrong move and a river crossing could sweep you under. Bandits watched for easy targets. Every rider, black or white, carried a gun. You needed it. The drive didn't care about your color. It cared if you could ride, rope, and survive. Black cowboys worked every job: wrangler, cook, top hand. On the trail, skill was the only thing that mattered. Crews ate together, bunked together, depended on each other to stay alive. When a storm hit or a herd bolted, nobody asked where you came from. They asked if you could hold the line. The numbers don't lie. Before barbed wire cut up the plains in 1874, cattle drives stretched up to 1,000 miles. 4 months in the saddle, every day a test. Historians estimate that out of every 4 cowboys, 1 was black. Payroll logs and trail rosters back it up. Chisholm, Goodnight-Loving, Western cattle, all the same story. The West needed hands. Skill came first. No sheriff, no backup, no second chances. If you fell behind, you got left behind. Out here, every man proved himself in sweat and danger. This was the real Wild West, raw, brutal, and more diverse than any dime novel dared admit. Nat Love. The name jumps off the page, literally. In 1907, he published his own life story, spelling out what the movies never showed. Born enslaved, he rode 8 states, dodged bullets, broke wild horses, and survived raids. His autobiography does not beg for permission. It dares you to deny him. One line, clear as day. I roped, threw, branded, and bossed with the best of them. That is proof in ink. You want a real cowboy? Start here, Bill Pickett. If you've ever watched steer wrestling at a rodeo, you're watching his invention. Early 1900s, Oklahoma. Pickett did not just rope cattle. He would leap from his horse, bite a steer's lip, and wrestle it to the ground. They called it bulldogging, and nobody had ever seen anything like it. There is footage, grainy, black and white, but real. Pickett's moves became legend. The crowd went wild. The sport still bears his name. You cannot erase a man who changed the game. Bose Ikard, not a myth, a name carved in stone. He rode for Charles Goodnight on the Goodnight-Loving trail, the backbone of the cattle boom. 4 years, side by side, through storms, stampedes, and outlaw country. When Ikard died, Goodnight paid for a granite marker. The inscription does not hedge. Served with me 4 years on the Goodnight-Loving trail. More faithful, more trustworthy, never lived. That is not Hollywood. That is truth set in rock. Bass Reeves, lawmen, United States Deputy Marshal for over 30 years. The record books say he made more than 3,000 arrests, rode alone into outlaw territory, and outlived most of his enemies. He could shoot with either hand, track for days, and wore a badge when most men like him could not even vote. Some say he inspired the Lone Ranger. The arrest ledgers, the court records, they do not care what color he was. They just count the bodies and the bounties. 4 names, 4 receipts. Black cowboys were not sidekicks or background extras. They built the West, left their mark, and dared anyone to write them out. The evidence is right here. Books, film, stone, and record. So why did Hollywood make them vanish? The West slammed shut in 1890. The U.S. Census called it frontier closed. No more wild land left to claim. The open range, once ruled by cattle drives and riders of every color, vanished almost overnight. Railroads cut deep across the plains. Barbed wire snapped up the open country, mile by mile. The long cattle trails, the ones that made legends and paid real wages, dried up. No more 1,000-mile rides. No more crews living by skill and grit. The age of the cowboy ended fast, faster than most people remember. But something else was just getting started. In New Jersey, 1910, a new kind of Western rolled out, the silent film. No cattle dust, no real danger, just flickering shadows and white hats on a painted set. The first feature-length Western, The Squaw Man, hit screens that year. It made money. Studios took notice. The formula was simple. Sell the West, sell the myth, sell the hero. Hollywood did not need the open range. It needed a story that would fill seats. Movies could go where the railroads had already gone. Every small town, every city, coast to coast. Cheap tickets, big crowds, bigger profits. The real cowboys, the ones who had risked their necks for a few dollars a month, got replaced by actors in clean shirts. The West turned from a job to a fantasy. And in that fantasy, the faces started to look the same. The camera picked its favorites. The story started to shrink. Two doors closed at once, the land and the truth. As the range disappeared, the silver screen took over. What was left behind was not just lost cattle or empty trails, it was the real story, swapped out for something easier to sell. The world changed. The cowboy stayed, but only in the movies. And the movies chose their own version of who belonged in the saddle. Hollywood didn't just ignore black cowboys. It erased them, frame by frame, until the myth looked nothing like the truth. Look at the movie posters from the 1920s through the 1950s. White hats, white faces, white heroes. Studios made sure the cowboy was a one-color story. The real West had black men riding point and running the herd. The screen West had them missing, or worse, stuck as sidekicks or silent extras if they showed up at all. Casting calls spelled it out. White actors got the lead, the horse, the girl, the gun. Black actors, when they appeared, were lucky to get a line. By the 1950s, black cowboys made up less than 1% of all roles in Westerns. On film, on television, everywhere, the genre sold its legend. Gunsmoke, Bonanza, The Lone Ranger, hundreds of hours, almost no black writers. The message was clear. The real faces of the range did not fit the story Hollywood wanted to sell. Studio bosses knew their audience. They played to a market that wanted manifest destiny, not messy reality. Posters promised a world where the West was white, pure, and heroic. No room for the men who had actually driven the cattle, fought the storms, and built the frontier. The proof is right there. Split the screen. On one side, a faded photograph. Black and white cowboys shoulder to shoulder, hats low, eyes sharp. On the other, a technicolor fantasy, one color only, riding into the sunset. History didn't change. The camera did. The moment Hollywood picked up the lens, it picked a side. Every casting choice, every painted poster, every sanitized script was a choice. Not an accident, not a mistake, a choice. The real West got cut from the real. The myth got top billing. And you were handed a version of America where black cowboys never rode at all. 1 in 4 cowboys was black. Nat Love hustled. Bill Pickett invented. Bass Reeves laid down the law, yet Hollywood wrote them out. So ask yourself, is that history or is that editing? You can't ride both sides. Sound off below, because silence is how Erasure wins.